Hello and welcome to Warwick iCast. In this week's programme, combining psychology and technology research has led one professor to developing a unique piece of computer software that can help businesses analyse their productivity and performance. Joy Mitra talks to Robin Powell.
My academic research is in sensory motor coordination, mostly how our visual system helps us guide our actions and coordination of the body. So in doing that research, I'm also interested in visual attention and visual grouping and visual object perception, such that we can understand how the body is able to guide its movements.
So how did you get involved in this particular area of research?
It was in the context of an Institute for Applied Cognitive Science, where we had the chance to meet with quite a few people from the business world, in particular consultants that were advising large retailers. The difficulty that they were describing is that even though these organizations are quite data rich, they have almost transaction by transaction information being recorded, but they have limited ability of using that level of information down to the unit level on a regular basis to monitor performance and to take administrative decisions on the basis of it.
So what's the solution you've come up with?
We've come up with a system that we call OpScape, which is shortened for the operational landscape. And what it does is tries to produce a visual approach to monitoring performance. And it takes advantage of the fact that the structure of business performance monitoring task has some very interesting commonalities with some things that we do in our everyday life with our vision. The performance monitoring task is essentially a task of grouping the business units that you've got into different groups. So what OpScape really does is takes this ability to group objects by their visual features and matches it to the requirement of grouping that we have for performance monitoring.
So give me an example of how this system works.
Here we have an example of a high street retail chain in London. And one of the performance elements that they need to optimize is payroll cost. So there are seasonal variations in the number of people walking through the stores, and there are also variations in the number of people required to man the store in an optimal way. Each particular store operates on the basis of a certain number of contracted hours that they're obliged to pay. And around that, the managers have quite a lot of freedom in changing the number of people that they employ as a function of demand. Now, the number of variables that you would have to be able to get handle on to be able to solve this problem is actually quite large. Here, for example, I can show you the spreadsheet of only one of the of 7 different administrative units they have just in the London area. Quite simply, the problem is that there is far too much information for you to efficiently take in on a regular basis. Here, I'm showing you the OpScape rendition of this particular problem, and what I've done is put the 26 stores of the London operations in a star pattern that you see here. The colors that you see on each of these stores that are represented by these balls are showing the payroll cost position of the store at a particular point in time. If the color you see is green, that means that store is within plus minus 10% of its contracted hours level and is not therefore using a lot of variation in its payroll cost, and so we don't need to be worried about them. And wherever you're seeing various shades of pink going on all the way to red, what you have here is extra people being taken on at various levels.
And if there's a problem with a particular store, what can you do?
Okay, let's have a look at the operations of this particular company in the peak Christmas season of this particular year. None of them have a sales warning bar through them, except this particular store here. We can home in on the details and have a look at all the different variables that we have available to give us a better view of this problem.
I'm Richard Atkinson, and I'm running the company that we've set up, which is also called OpScape, which is a spin-out from Warwick University and through which we're commercialising the technology.
What do you think of this product?
I think this is a very exciting and interesting project. It deals with the problem of data clutter, which is something that most large businesses and particularly retailers have, where they have more information than they know what to do with. And they're trying to solve that using existing tools such as graphs and pie charts and so on, which are good as far as they go, but they don't begin to get to grips with the complexity of data that they're presented with. Now, what's different about OpScape is this is a complete radical shift in the approach and the thinking about solving this kind of problem. It's a paradigm shift, if you will, and that means that its potential is almost unlimited.
And what sort of interest have you had so far?
We've had interest obviously from a number of different sectors because the technology is so generic. But I think the strongest expression of interest that we have had is that we have sold the system to a major DIY retailer, and we're hoping to go further within that sector.
That's all from Warwick iCast for this week. Until next time, goodbye.